The Film Crickets are intended for mature audiences. Any guests on the Film Crickets do not necessarily share the same opinions as the Film Crickets.
Film Crickets, chirping about movies.
It's time for the Film Crickets with Jay Fortier, Chris Martineau, and Melanie Howerton. On this week's episode, it's just Jay and Chris, and they review the 1979 American science fiction film, Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Future expects an answer. An answer. And all the question.
Does it stand the test of time? Let's find out. Your Film Crickets are on now.
Hey friends, my name is Jay Fortier. Welcome to the Film Crickets, and I'm along with my good friend and co-host, Chris Martineau. How you doing, buddy?
Hello, Jason. What's happening? How's the weekend so far? Coming to you on a Sunday. I don't know.
I just made you laugh by talking, and I'm like, uh-oh, I said something out of order.
I was inside baseball, folks. I was waiting for the theme song, and it didn't drop, so he just kind of went in. I'm like, I guess we're going. That's fine.
Right. Though everyone on the planet would already have heard it by now, because Steve always gets this one, even if it's later. So today, actually for the next a couple of shows, maybe like two more shows or whatever. Melanie's going to be doing her own thing, in her life, and so she's not gone. I don't want anybody to think that she's just doing her thing, and life gets in the way. So
sure.
That being said, today we're going to talk about a movie. That is probably one of the least popular of this, let's say, series.
I don't know. It depends on who you ask and who the purists are. And
all right.
I think it's going to be kind of dividing. We're speaking of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. The first one came out in 1979, so we're breaking our rules a little bit. And the reason I brought it up, well, two main reasons. One, I'm cheap. It's on Tubi. So didn't have to pay for it, just have to watch it with commercials,
Pluto.
Which makes a long movie even longer. Pluto, Pluto, whatever, one of those free ones. But you know what, folks? I hate to tell you, surprisingly, all of the Star Treks are on Pluto. The Next Generations and all that stuff. So it was nice to see, because I don't own them. I like Trek. I'm not diehard, but I do appreciate Trek for what it is. I've watched Trek documentaries, and it dawned on me. I don't know why. It just out of nowhere. I'm like, I was talking to my wife. I'm like, we should watch the Trek movies in order. And so she said, sure. And I said, well, we got to get through the first one first. And it's a toughie. It's a tough one to watch, but I think we have to talk about not only the movie, but the context of the movie in terms of the fandom and in terms of the original series, because that does inform the decisions that were made and making the film at the time. And I'm not going to go through the history, and we don't have trivia. That doesn't matter. So, Jay, let's get into it here. What is your history with Star Trek: The Motion Picture?
I don't have any. So until this week, I saw it this week for the first time in full. I began it maybe once a while ago.
Okay.
I grew up. I'll tell you my quick story, and then I can say my brothers. I'll just say my brothers saw it in the theater as a. We lived in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, first part of my life, for a little bit, and then until third grade. And my brothers, I remember, because my memory is freaky, as you've learned. My brothers went to see it for a class trip.
What? Oh my God!
As far as I remember.
Oh my God!
Wrong, but I'm 99%.
What grade?
Sure.
What grade?
I remember they were probably in 6th or 5th, something like that.
Oh my God! Oh my God! This movie's like watching paint dry. They put a bunch of middle schoolers
saying that they didn't like it, because it was boring. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Or complaining that it was boring. Now my thing, it would always appear Star Trek in general would appear on Channel 56 around like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mine was Channel 10.
Reruns.
Mine was Channel 10. Yep.
Either way, it would appear on these types of stations, and I remember even in 1970 something thinking it looked really old.
Sure.
And it kind of was a turnoff. And like at the same time, I didn't understand anything that they would be talking about. Like their lingo was pretty sophisticated.
A little bit.
So when you're like 6, 7 years old, none of that like registers really. You know, like it's like I don't know. So it just kind of looked really boring. And it was also the time of day. I was already like I still wanted to continue watching cartoons. So if anybody was watching Star Trek, it was kind of like meh. So I kind of ignored it until like I want to say like late 90s. Somebody had Next Generation on DVD and they lent me like the first like 3 seasons, and I really, really liked it a lot.
Okay.
And I've never finished the series, but I really liked what I saw. And I ended up buying the Next Generation movies, like the box set, and I really liked that. So, So then, you know, now I'm going back and appreciating the original people. Like, you know, like
at least so just follow up real quick. Sure. Just real quick follow up. What's your first Star Trek movie that you saw?
Oh, oddly enough, this was a weird thing for me. I was taken to the theater by my friends who were dying to see The Undiscovered Country, which is number 6.
Was that me?
No, it was 2 guys I was in another van with.
Oh, okay, all right. I know I saw it with it wasn't like just date night. I think it was like 4 people. Okay, all right, that's fine.
And I enjoyed it a lot, even though I wasn't part of the, the core.
So you're late to Wrath of Khan.
Oh, no, I saw Wrath of Khan maybe probably I don't know, like within the last 20 years tops. Like,
okay, all right, that's curious. All right, so that really does inform your take on Star Trek and how we should maybe think about the movie. I was a Trek fan. I did the same thing. I watched Trek. Failed as a series. It was supposed to go 5-year message, and I only made it 3 up to 1969, and then they pulled it. Desilu went bankrupt after the first year, and then I think Paramount took it over after that. And I'm sorry, Trek fans, if I got my history wrong, but that's generally it. I think it did get canceled either way after 3 years, and then it made its life in syndication. So
also, but what made it they ended up with an animated series not too long after that, which
you're right.
Like gave people something, and it was the original people that were voicing it.
Yep, true. Which is strange because they hate each other. But anyway, that's besides the point. Shatner, surprisingly, is hard to work with. Anyhow, so the bottom line here is that it went in syndication. So syndication goes to your local TV stations. That's where I picked it up on Channel 10 in the afternoons. In the summer, only in the summer, they ran the Star Trek reruns from 5 to 6 right before the news. So that's what I remember. And I was bummed out because when fall came around, Star Trek got replaced by MASH and Taxi from 5 to 6. I wanted to see Star Trek. And when I watched Star Trek, you're right. I understood that it looked worse than Star Wars because I really like Star Wars. But it was star stuff. It was space travel. And that's what I really cared about. And I always knew it looked janky, but I didn't really care because it was warp speed and photon torpedoes and phasers and star dates, and I was just eating that shit up. And so that's where I watched it. And my mother one day said, "Do you want to go see Star Trek 2?" And I went, "Sure, I want to." Well, at first I was scared because I was small. And movies, if you don't know them, you might be scared by them, right? Like you don't want to go to a movie and be scared. And so she's like, "Okay, we don't have to go." And then I changed my mind about half hour later. It was just, I'm having a kind of a sense memory. It was one of those moments you have with your mom or dad that you never forget because it's like an experience. It's a thing that shaped you, right? My mother took me to see Star Wars, and my mother took me to see Star Trek 2 at the Woonsocket Cinema, the one that was off to the side but wasn't grouped with the others, Cinema 5. Weirdly enough, in this plaza, you had 5 cinemas in one location, and all the way down the other end, there was one more.
There's one by itself.
Why?
Yeah, Cinema 4.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the one I went to. I went to go see it there, and man, Wrath of Khan is fantastic. Things went in people's ears. I was terrified by that. It's a naval battle. Like those in Khan, 2 starships are next to each other, basically lobbying cannonballs, except with photon torpedoes at each other, and bad shit happens to the good guys, and the good guys prevail because they outsmart Khan. It's such a good movie. And so then I said to my grandmother said, the video pirate said, there's Star Trek the motion picture, and I think she didn't know it was there, but she saw it at the video store. She knew I like Star Trek. I'm going to rent this. So she rents it, she dubs it, and I watch it. And I was bored stiff because it's not Wrath of Khan, and I wanted Wrath of Khan. And every movie after Wrath of Khan tries to be Wrath of Khan, or at least something that's... Here's the thing. It's supposed to be 2 through 6 are movies. Star Trek the Motion Picture is a long-form Star Trek episode.
In fact, what I read about it was they were because the excitement of Star Wars and Close Encounters, that's when the buzz started to come about this. And they were going to do Star Trek Phase 2, like the series.
Yeah.
And this was like basically the pilot type episodes, plural.
Right.
And they put it together and made a movie out of it.
Right. So I put on my old man glasses.
Sure.
Got my readers. So I'm going to read the one sentence breakdown because I think we've set up where we need to go to with this movie. So, Star Trek, the motion picture, rated G. If I'm not mistaken, at the end, doesn't Decker have sex with the bald lady? I mean, we don't see it. But don't they have sex? We got to talk about that later because my wife and I had a discussion on this. Came out in 1979. It comes in at 2 hours and 23 minutes. It's probably about 40 minutes too long. And what we get here is when an alien spacecraft of enormous power is spotted approaching Earth, Admiral James T. Kirk resumes command of the overhauled USS Enterprise in order to intercept it. Directed by Robert Wise, written by Gene Roddenberry, Harold Livingston, and Alan Dean Foster. Starring the greats. We got Shatner, we got Nimoy, we got Kelly, we got Doohan, we got Takei. We got Nurse Chapel's back. We got as Majel Barrett, Walter Koenig, Nichelle Nichols, Persis Kambata. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but that's the actress who shaved her head for the role. And of course, can't forget Stephen Collins. Nothing wrong with Stephen Collins, right? He hasn't had anything in the news we need to talk about it.
Wow. Can be deceiving, folks. Like, he has that like charisma that makes him look like he looks like guy next door, like sweet man. Like has that look. Oops,
not so much.
I just say do your own research on the disgusting things that he's done. But and he's never been to jail for it.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Dead.
Yeah. What's that? His career's dead. Yeah, at least that. Yes.
That going for us, which is nice.
Yes. So look. So this movie comes out in '79. We get Star Trek: The Motion Picture. As Jason said, it failed, and then it kind of ramped up some fan service. Star Wars comes out. Now the technology's there in order to shoot a movie, and so we're gonna make Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Everybody's back, which is nice. And then, what did you notice about? When you start the movie, Jason, what do you notice about the first 3 minutes of the movie?
The first 3 minutes. I don't know about the first three, but I know
the very beginning of the movie. What happens?
Well, my whole thing that I thought was eternal was the big long reveal of the Enterprise. Let's take this long 5-minute journey. 5 minutes.
Right, 5 minutes
because it felt like 5 minutes.
It's about 5 minutes,
sure, right? And by the way, every reveal in this movie is about 5 minutes. So there's even other reveals, but someone's going through the V'ger thing, which we'll get to later. But like every one of those reveals is 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that's my thing.
Like that.
Yeah. So we start with just stars. With nothing, titles on it.
Now I wonder, is that something special that came later? Because both of us watched the director's thing, so I don't know if it's something that came later. Because really, that's before Paramount. Meaning, that's before anything is even seen as far as who brought you this film. Anybody. So there's got to be something different now.
I'm not sure.
Happened in 19 whatever, on your videotape.
We'd have to search that out. But what I'm saying is, I wouldn't doubt it because the stars come out and they're prepping you for. You wanted it, you got it, you nerds. We're bringing you space, and every time. And now we have the technology. It doesn't need to look janky anymore. We've got the technology in filmmaking technology to make this look good. And so the first 3 minutes are literally stars and what turns out to be later on the Next Generation soundtrack, which is awesome. Da, ba, 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 da, da, da. Nobody wants to hear the 60s with I forget the name of the instrument, the theremin. The theremin, right? No one wants, that's very dated. So they got Jerry Goldsmith to do the soundtrack, and it's awesome. But you will sit there and you will watch stars while we play that soundtrack. And whenever we can in this movie, they reveal the Enterprise, which has had an overhaul, which is the central beginning problem with the movie, and it's visual space pornography. It's look at the curves on this vessel. Look, have you seen what we did? And they're like, you're ogling this big starship because, hey, you nerds, you've been waiting 10 years for this. We made this for you. You're going to look at the Enterprise because now it'll look good. But it's 5 minutes.
You've been waiting. Now we're going to make you wait.
Yeah, and wait
while watching it slowly.
And why do we? But to the point here is that why do we have to watch the Enterprise in a long reveal? Well, why don't they just beam up to the Enterprise?
Well, I don't care if they show it. They can show it quick. They can show it in a third of that time.
But I'm gonna give the movie a little bit of credit because they want to give us the big reveal of us looking at the Enterprise for 5 minutes. But the way that they sell it, because they should be able to transport up, but the transporters aren't working on the Enterprise, which the science officer tells Kirk, the Vulcan that eventually dies, right? Says, she's not ready to go. He's like, the vessel's got to be ready to go in 12 hours. Typical Kirk fashion. I'm going to ask you something that's physically impossible. It can't be done. We'll make it happen. And then lo and behold, it happens. That would break the laws of physics, Scotty. I don't care if you break the laws of physics. Make it happen in 3 hours. And lo and behold, he does it. So the fact of the matter is the setup for the transporter, which forces us to look at the whole ship, is also the setup to off the science officer to bring Nimoy back on board, who is over in Vulcan purging his emotions, which he never does. And good on this movie for actually and the TV show Vulcan is laughable. It's a set. Whenever they go on Vulcan, it's laughable. It's just a set. But here it's badass. There's volcanoes, there's giant statues. And there are Vulcans saying, Spock, you want to be a man, you have to purge your emotions, and he can't do it. And which is good for him, but which we come to find out later, he simply can't let go of the human side of him. So he goes back on the Enterprise after the other science officer dies. So anyway, that's just an interesting bit about all that. But so we get on board now. Kirk. Let's get to Kirk. Let's get to the Shat, as we were. I don't want to take a Shat here, but let's get to the Shatner. Okay? Is he a nice man? I don't mean William Shatner. I mean, is Kirk, what is his deal? Are we supposed to like him? He basically muscles his way into command a ship. Why does he want to command the ship, Jay?
Well, it was his.
Right. No other reason. He doesn't trust people with his ship. Right? He's an admiral. Yeah. We don't explore the fact that he doesn't like being an admiral until Wrath of Khan. He doesn't like a desk job. He wants to go fly out into the stars. And in doing so, robs Stephen Collins of his Decker. We're going to say Decker because I'm not going to incur the word Collins as much as I can. And in this movie, I can actually remember the characters' names, unlike other movies that we cover. So Decker, he kicks Decker out, not because he's done anything. In fact, Decker has done everything on the ship. But Kirk says
he knows more.
And he knows more because he was there for the refit.
Because there's a moment, a little later, where he has to override him, overrule him because, it was going to be the wrong decision.
Right.
When shooting something, yeah.
So Kirk is out of the gate, he's not being a very nice man.
I think no one, as far as I don't think anybody cared in the fan because they wanted him there.
I know, but my point is, I agree. We do want him there, 100%. All I'm saying is we have a Kirk that's abusing his bureaucracy in order to get a command back that somebody else could probably do. I know, we're not going to have the Enterprise without Kirk. But why even, to me, it kind of all right, ready? You know what Roddenberry's vision of Star Trek is?
Go ahead, you can tell me.
Roddenberry's vision of
I have ideas of what he's doing, but you could probably sum it up better. So go.
Well, his whole bit was, he's he's a military. I think he was a military brat. He grew up in the 60s, and he wanted the Federation to be a place where all conflict has been resolved. There is no more conflict anywhere. There's no more money, because if you get rid of money, you get rid of conflict. So there's no money. And so everybody basically his vision is everybody figured it out. Like, we figured out how to get along. And by the way, in Roddenberry's vision, the way we get along is to make sure that all the women have secretary or nurse jobs and wear as short a skirt as possible. That's besides the point. Now, I'm not wrong. He was a horny man. He slept around. So that was kind of his big, so free love, but we figured everything out. And so if we figured everything out, then why would Kirk be jealous if he's in the Federation? He should just go along with it, shouldn't he?
I guess, but you're not going to stop humans from being human.
100%. 100%. I'm just saying, if we've resolved all conflicts, why do we need starships? But either way, that goes without saying. So anyway, that's all.
Though. Think about the fact that they were from the 60s, right? The show's from the 60s. And they had a Chinese man. They had a Russian man.
Oh, yeah. And first African American in a role in a TV series that wasn't like a maid or a servant. I mean, granted, she was still a secretary. Really, sorry, but she was an officer, and that's important.
Very future. Very kudos to them for that. I really I love that. Especially the 60s, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? The idea of a Russian being involved, that's pretty all right.
Good point.
You know what I mean?
Good point.
You know, the people sticking their heads between their legs, at school.
So going back to Star Trek. So we get on board. Kirk takes over, much to the chagrin of Decker, even though Decker takes it because he's an officer. He doesn't like it, but he takes it. And he kind of keeps giving him the stink eye, And we get our, Kirk's all, let's take her out. We got to take the starship out. And right out of the gate, Kirk says, I want warp speed. And Scotty's like, we can't have warp speed. Kirk says, give me warp speed. And then everything goes to shit. And somehow a wormhole opens around an asteroid. What? But that's the only conflict we have so far is internal conflict between people and a black hole, because Kirk doesn't really totally know what he's doing. The reason I'm bringing up the asteroid with the black hole, which has nothing to do with the God entity thing that's on a trajectory to Earth, which the Enterprise has to intercept at some point, is that this is the only time we see a photon torpedo fired in anger in this movie by a Federation vessel. It starts with the Klingons, but they get wiped out right away when they fire on V'ger. But we don't see, there is not a phaser is fired in this movie. Not a hand phaser, not a starship phaser, not a photon torpedo. We are just cruising through space talking about what does the alien want. Am I wrong on this or what?
No,
yeah. Once we get past that first initial conflict that Kirk needs to listen to Decker, because you're the new guy here, even though you're the old guy here. Kirk, you don't know this vessel as well as I know this vessel. And once they kind of get that mutual respect, it turns into an hour and a half of what is this feature? What does he want? And we have to communicate. That's it.
Right.
It's mind-bogglingly slow.
Well, but that's also probably the way episodes would go.
That's absolutely right.
Right, and that's why it didn't do well. And as far as the overall vibe, the way people received it, and that's also why Gene Roddenberry was removed.
He was, yes,
before part 2. They were like, all right, never mind.
See ya.
Yep, we get it, and I promise we'll make it better.
I loved in this movie. Yeah, I loved in this movie how they basically said, in 3 days. One of the mysteries to me about Star Trek, and I know military people are supposed to keep their cool. That's why they're military, right? You're under orders. Your only job is to worry about your orders. Don't worry about everything else. The captain is the one that's supposed to worry about stuff. And for a person, for a man like Kirk and Decker and Spock and Bones, who doesn't really keep his cool ever. That's why we like Bones.
He's so great.
He is great. He is a wonderful. I love him so much.
He's so funny.
I know. He's like 80 years old. He was born in like 1912. Like, he's so old. But anyway, so my point is that these Star Trek captains keep their cool so well. We have an unknown thing that's a light year across that's already wiped out 3 Klingon birds of prey. It's inbound to Earth in 3 days, which is why they have to get out right now. Yet they have the wherewithal to see me in my quarters, talk about playing the games that we play with the other lieutenant, the bald lieutenant, and to switch our wardrobe 3 times. Once in like the gray thing with the giant buckle, another one where he had the really awesome low cut and you showing his guns. He had like this tight shirt up to here, and then finally when he goes to see Vidra at the end, he changed his clothes 3 times. I don't know, and part of it was like leisure wear, like there was sweatpants. Speaking of sweatpants, did I need to see Decker's package that much in this movie? Just asking. Did I need to see he was circumcised or not? Is that really necessary in the film? Those are some tight pants on this man and everybody else too. But I'm just saying, like, what? Not since Tron have I seen that. No, but seriously, like the clothing in this movie it's so hysterical because they have for officers in a military. I don't care that it's not military. It's military.
You do say that, but I'm sorry to interrupt, but another show that maybe didn't come out quite yet, but was about to come out, was Buck Rogers.
Sure.
And
okay.
They were like,
yep,
silver.
You're right.
Tight. I don't know if it came out yet. I'd have to look it up, like to see when it came out.
I'm pretty sure the standard issue Federation footwear were slippers. They were rocking some slippers in this movie. Whatever. I'm just saying.
And like everything was like tight silver, whatever the hell. Like,
unbelievable. But we go through this movie. So now we've had our problem with the wormhole, which has nothing to do with the movie. We're trying to intercept the big cloud-like thing. We go through at least once we get close to the cloud-like thing. Then, just like in a typical TV series episode, we spend about 10 minutes of they're scanning us. Let's scan them back. It seems as though I picked up these life forms. They're scanning us. How big is it? And then just gather information. And then we have a very aggressive scanning moment where a big laser light thing comes in and teleports the blonde lady. I'm so sorry. I can't remember her name. What's her name? The bald actress. She did fine. Ilya. Because I can't say her real name. So Ilya. She gets whisked away, who was once involved with Decker, and then they go away. And then we're still trying to figure out what the entity wants. And now is when we go into, we got to talk about something here. Spock decides he's going to go investigate the entity on its own. And now we're flying into this big mechanical construct. Now, Jay, when was the first time you've seen 2001: A Space Odyssey?
No.
You never have. Okay.
No.
Are you aware that there is a wormhole section in that where it's just freaky lights? You've heard the reputation of this movie.
I understand. I guess.
Okay.
There's a baby or something. But.
Well, that's at the very end, but that also has to do with this movie. So at one point at the end of the movie, Bowman goes through a wormhole, and it's the 60s, man. So it's just trippy lights and whatnot. Even though it's deeper than that, it's like. Seems like an interminable amount of time. The first time I saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, I didn't like it. I like it now, but I was too young for it when I first saw it. And the wormhole thing, the Stargate comes up. And when you have a short attention span as a middle schooler, you're like, half of this movie is the Stargate. It takes like 25 minutes. Like, why is this taking so long? What is he trying to do to me with all these shapes and all these colors? And you think it's 25 minutes, and then you grow up and you watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, and you're like, oh, it's only 8 minutes. Granted, that's way too long, but it's only 8 minutes. It seems 3 times longer. When I first saw this movie, I swear to you, there's at least an hour of the Enterprise just flying through the big cloud entity. You start at one end, and you're slowly working your way. And then Spock gets out of it and goes in with his little space pod and gets closer to V'ger so he can mind meld. And it seems like that took 45 minutes. It doesn't. It takes 10, which is too long. But what is wrong with our attention spans when we go from young So did that scene seem interminable? Like it's never. When is the starship gonna stop going through this thing and do something? Like, did you feel that, or is it me? Were you really intrigued by the cloud entity and wanted to see all those lights?
I wasn't bothered by a lot, except for, like I said, the long reveals. Like, like every time they went outside or like was going to show something new, we had to watch like 5 straight minutes of each one. And I was like, what? Yeah. So, like, I mean, some stuff wasn't bothering. I got to say, I did overall, and people, we'll get to more stuff, but I'm saying overall, I was not, I enjoyed it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, more than I thought I would. Well,
I haven't said if I liked it or not. I'm just talking
saying,
about the movie. Yeah.
I was just going in, I went in low, and that helped a lot.
Yeah.
So that eventually I will say the same thing, but that is my advice.
Yeah, sure.
Go in low.
No, but I hear you. But Jay, you said everything is a slow reveal. But here's the thing: it looks good.
Sure.
It looks good. It's like the same reason
I think they cleaned it.
They might have.
Like, and what I'm saying is there is like I said, we watched the director's edition, so I think some modern tweaks came to make it like cleaner. That's all. But
even when I remember when I saw it on a pirated videotape. It looks better than the original series, and it's close. It's not as good as Star Wars, but it's close. And so
they're taking take a cue from Star Wars in pacing.
No, that's the thing. Like, here, look, Star Trek is, I don't know, they call it diamond sci-fi, but it's clean sci-fi. Like everything is shiny and white and slow moving, and it's clean. Whereas Star Wars is fast and things are dirty and they break down, and things have an attitude. There's a lot more personality. Dirty sci-fi. It's like Firefly. Firefly has been called dirty sci-fi. Not like dirty like adult content. I mean dirty like everything's dirty and dusty and muddy and broken and there's junk on the floor, whereas Star Trek is very clean. It's like a hospital, except for the Klingons, but we don't care. They're the bad guys. That's how we know they're the bad guys. Because their ships are dirty and smoky, and seems like people are always chain smoking on a Klingon bird of prey. There's always like a mist hanging in the bridge. Get a dehumidifier, guys. It's gonna be fine.
Federation take it over.
Yeah, right. So anyway, so then we come all the way through, and we come to find out, in one of the, again, I'll give the movie credit, when Spock takes forever to mind meld with the entity. He then gets blown back to the Enterprise. The next time we see Nimoy, he's crying, or Spock, he's crying. And to me, it's a really neat moment because they actually, for a movie that's so slow, they call back to something at the beginning. Nimoy, sorry, I said I wasn't going to do that. Spock, because he still has emotion and hasn't purged it, has melded with Voyager 6. And V'ger is pure logic. Doesn't understand any of that, right? And so Spock actually feels bad for V'ger because Spock, the reason he failed the Vulcan trials is because if he purged his emotion, that's it. To him, again, is this all there is? Is there nothing more? And to him, purging his emotion means, well, I can't develop anymore as a person. This is it. And he can't, that terrifies him. And he that's why he feels bad inside about not passing the Vulcan tests. And that's why he feels bad for V'ger, because he understands where V'ger's coming from. V'ger's asking the question, is this all there is? Is there nothing more? I can't do any better than this? This is all there is to the universe? And so what's not explained is that V'ger, which is Voyager 6, which we made and sent out as a probe, the old Voyager series, it encountered a technological alien entity, has melded with V'ger, we come to find out, and it's on its way to Earth to find the creator. Okay, so there's the God thing. And they want to become an extra-dimensional entity. Did you catch that? Did you catch that storyline? I didn't.
It's way too much. Like, you shouldn't do all this as your story when you're trying to entertain people.
Right, and so, but that's my point. If it were a TV show, you could say at the end, it seems as though they end this movie with saying, Decker and Ilya disappear because they meld with V'ger to become a human machine intelligent hybrid, which then catapults it to another dimension of existence, and they disappear. And Spock says on the bridge with McCoy, or Kirk said, "What do you think we just saw?" And Spock says, "I believe we've seen the creation of a new type of life form." Where the fuck did you get that from that? All I saw was a big, like a blood. Now, granted, they allude to it, but it's not like they say, hey, when Decker and Elia merge, quote unquote, that's why I said they don't have sex, but they keep saying they merged. And my wife disagrees, but I'm like, no, the subtext is there. Anyway, the bottom line is they're not going to say to create a new multidimensional entity. How can you say that? But if it were a TV show, it would work in the context. And by the way, that's the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Is Bowman melds with an alien race, and he becomes the Star Child, a thing that is beyond the next evolution of man, right? So they're cribbing from that a little bit. But boy, that's your first Star Trek movie.
Yeah, see.
Like, wow.
Too deep.
It's a lot. It's a lot to ask. And so before we get into it,
my brothers were probably in 5th or 6th. They're probably like 6th grade, like maybe max.
Right.
When they watched it.
So Jay.
That's pretty freaking early.
That's early for that. Concept. Particularly for a movie where once we get into the movie. Yeah. Once we get into the movie proper. And by the way, like I said, once we get into the movie proper, not a phaser or photon torpedo is fired in the entire film. They tease us with a Klingon bird of prey firing red photon torpedoes into the thing and like, that looks so cool, oh my god, and then they get blown up and we never see them again. So it's really too bad about that. Now, again, before we've kind of like talked about the movie and how it, about like how you should approach it when you watch it. So Jay, the question I have for you is, now you just said you got christened with Star Trek 6. That was your first movie.
Which is good.
So do you think if for somebody that needs an entry point to the Star Trek movies, do you start with 1?
No.
You've seen them all. You've seen them all.
You don't have to, because it's not like it's an origin.
Mm-hmm.
You're not like starting from, this is Kirk. Like this is him growing up and becoming, if you have to like watch the, if you're like really wanting to sell them on the original set, then you can start with 2. Yeah,
I'd say so.
Yeah.
2. Look,
if you really
Star
want
Trek
the origin stuff, then you can go like to the modern ones with Chris Pine.
No, but I'm saying, well, yeah, I know, but
no, I'm saying
barring
like,
all that.
Yeah, gotcha. I'm just saying.
I like that movie, by the way. I'm just saying, like,
so much fun.
It's very good. It's very entertaining. It's a meld of Star Wars and Star Trek, as far as I'm concerned. But
they know.
J.J.
Abrams knew.
I know.
He knew what he was doing. But go ahead.
But my point is that if you're going to watch Star Trek and you want an entry point, to me, you can go in with 2. I didn't know who Khan was. I never saw that episode when I saw Wrath of Khan, but it didn't matter. But having gone through all this, we really have to ask the question, like, is the movie good, right? So we've decided that Wrath of Khan is probably a better entry point because basically Star Trek is so in pop culture, like kids are born out of the womb knowing who Kirk is. So is it good? Did you like it? It's too long. It's boring. Is it boring? Do you think it's boring?
But you know what? I think I'm ready sometimes for like things that aren't that speedy with Star Trek. So like I guess I was ready for it. But
okay.
It would never. But it's boring. Yes, it is, and I can. I would not recommend it to start with. No.
That's me. That's me too. Like first time I saw it, I said, well, I don't have to watch that ever again. That's terrible. It's boring. It's not Wrath of Khan. It's not Voyage Home. It's not Search for Spock. Like, it's not interesting. So I don't want to see it. And then I watched it again. Now, I don't want to suddenly go watch it. It's not going to be in high rotation. To say it's bad is kind of a lie. But yeah, it's dull. And it's basically the longest episode of Star Trek ever. That's it. I mean, it's the same beats. He even has little Stardate, like, cut-ins. So it's just the longest version of a TV show episode ever. Which I think people are kind of used to now with anything that's on streaming, like any of your shows. Did you watch Fallout?
No, I haven't.
All right. Like, I don't know that I recommend it. It's 8 episodes based on the video game, which I played a couple of times. And they're all an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. And it's just every episode's too long. But people liked it. I don't know that I dislike it, but it's just long and boring. And it seems as though whenever we have these new things like Rings of Power, each episode is too long and it's nothing going on. Maybe people are used to this. I don't know. But I don't know. So, hey. Let's see if it holds up, shall we?
It's time now for Final Judgment. Are you ready to rubber stamp this bitch? Here's the Final Judgment.
It looked like Earth was going to get a final judgment from V'ger if the god didn't answer. The creator did not answer. So
the creator did not answer. Yeah, you're right.
Like, so yes, we're going to ask if it holds up.
Yep. Jay?
Yeah. All right.
I'll go first. I'll go first. I would say no, it doesn't hold up because it's like, it doesn't hold up because it's just not a motion picture. To me, it's something you would put on streaming now because it's so slow. I think it holds up if you're a Star Trek fan. I think you have to watch it. I just don't see. It's so niche. Like you couldn't release it and have people go see it. So I'm going to say I liked it more than I did the first time. I appreciated it more than it did the first time. I liked the fact that I knew a little more about Roddenberry and his history and how he wrote the original Star Trek. So I think I liked it more for that, but I don't think it holds up. I don't think it holds up.
I agree. I think it just nobody today could watch this like from the beginning, and like if you're gonna, there are some movies from back then that do hold up because pacing is great still, but this has none. So like by the time the most exciting thing that happens is the wormhole. For a while, like, and then it's it's really weird, like everybody's talking like that, and Kirk almost fires torpedoes and or phasers or whatever, and that's when Decker goes no, because Kirk doesn't know the ship as well as he used to, type of thing,
right?
So it's, you know what I mean, like if you don't already appreciate this, then you will not like it at all. Like you will not be able to watch it and find something and get something out of it.
Right.
So I would say it's the absolute worst movie to start with.
Yeah, you got to start with Khan.
Yeah. Right. Yep. It's so, like, you know what I mean? If you're not already familiar, you're gonna look at this and go, "What the hell? What the hell do I care about any of this?"
Yeah, exactly.
It's just too slow and it's too deep. Whoa! It's not.
You know
necessary.
what the original script was called for this?
I forget.
The God Thing. Now I know it's probably the way you say it, like this is the God Thing, but the way I read it is, I don't know, the God Thing. Like that's how I read it. Like I'm sure Roddenberry thought it's the God Thing, but I read it as I wrote this movie. It's like the God Thing or something. Again, nothing against good old Roddenberry. I never wrote a hit series, but
now I'm going to say this: the Q character would be a lot more interesting in a movie.
Say again.
The Q character in Next Generation would be a lot more interesting of a character, or whatever, like a villain or whatever you want to call him, in a movie. That would be a lot more sellable, I think.
Sure. They never did that. I was honestly never into the Next Generation that much. I just didn't like it as much. I think because
I caught it at the right time in my life.
I think I also think that when they first started it, Roddenberry was in charge, and he was really hammering the drum of, no, there's no conflicts. We resolved all conflicts. And like, yeah, well, we can't have a story if there's no conflict. No, we can figure it out.
Conflicts wouldn't be on Earth. It would be elsewhere, like where they wouldn't understand us.
I know, but it just seemed like whenever episode I had, like, I watched, I just wasn't digging it. And then I know it got better. Once I got the Borg in there and all that stuff, like, it became very interesting, and I just never watched any of those. So, anywho, Guys, you should see Star Trek motion picture just as a pop culture
for canon,
timepiece.
But
yeah,
I mean, but not don't start with it if you're new.
No, Star Trek 2 first.
Yeah,
no doubt.
And I really I'm a big fan of the modern ones.
What do you mean, Discovery?
The ones with Chris Pine.
Oh yeah, I got.
I know you said you didn't see Beyond.
I always catch like the same 20 minutes of Beyond when it's on TV.
Are you gonna like go all the way?
I'm gonna watch it.
No, I mean,
I'm gonna watch
it. Are you now when you said the Star Trek series? Are you going from motion picture to Beyond?
No, probably gonna stop at 6 because I don't like I like Picard. I like the characters in Next Generation. I just don't care about Next Generation.
Okay.
I know that's sacrilege, guys. You can don't at me, but like I just never got into it. But I will watch. I do want to watch Beyond. I do like that Chris Pine movie. I really do like that first one. It's real good.
And part 2 is great too.
Yeah, it's okay.
Watch, man.
Yeah, it has its issues, but like, ooh, shocker, it's actually Khan. Never would have guessed that. But worst kept secret ever. Yeah. But all right. Well, that's cool. That's our show.
Yeah.
Get us out of here, Jay.
Hopefully, people, hopefully they like our take on this because this is like, I know it's sacred ground, like sacred territory that we're on right here. It's funny though. Before we go, I think it's funny how people will draw lines in the sand where they can't enjoy both. Like
Explain.
I like Star Wars,
okay,
and I like Trek. You know what I mean? Like people like act like, oh man, like let's take sides, like WWE or something. It's like I understand like why you can't just downshift and be in a different world. Like like enjoy this one for what it means. It's totally different. It's got humans. It's got Earth. There's no Earth and humans, as far as they're, I don't think they even called them humans in Star Wars, you know what I mean? I don't know what they're called, but...
no, they said human beings once.
Oh, did they? Okay. But
you get my
point. It's not, they try not to use, like the reference to the, the world of ours, So it's totally different, but it doesn't mean you can't enjoy them both.
Sure.
I
agree.
And the vibes are like, I agree with the Roddenberry thing. Like, I mean, it's too bad that we can't have more. We need that, like, to be more like that. It'd be great if it was.
Yep.
So,
I agree.
Hopefully you enjoyed our take on Star Trek, the motion picture.
Barely motion picture.
About it, like just in case you weren't sure that you're sitting in a theater watching a movie. But, hopefully you liked our take on that, and we hope to see Melanie soon. Like I said, maybe like 2 more episodes or so, and we will see you then. And thanks to Steve Lavoie for our vocal imaging and Draco and the Malfoys for our theme music. And until next time, movies may not age like fine wine, but we drink it anyway. Bye.
Peace.
About movie.